Hey guys, we'll talk about VVPR. Crazy ticker. First of all, it's had a very unique uh, book map that we haven't seen. We saw this a lot in December through like early February on these crazy strong stocks where um, it was a pattern that I logged a few times and made actually a pretty big percentage on. You get big percent moves, but you often couldn't do big size, which was what I call the long at the top, which is where they start stacking like 10, like 8, 10 layers of bids with no ask on the book, and they just shove it straight up. And that happened on this. I was not looking at it until it was already pretty extended. And of course, up to this point, it's up like 250%. And, we have seen some strength come back recently. We saw some midday runners, midday squeezes, market open longs working and stuff like that. But, I thought, um, like, okay, massive gap. It's huge volume. So I didn't want to hit this lower high because I thought maybe it would pull back, even if because this had no bid follow up, it would pull back and maybe I could get some type of better read, right? Um, but then it started kind of just rolling over, and I was like, all right, well, let me see if there's any. This thing went up about 250% up only. A lot of these big, aggressive moves in a pre-market without a lot of consolidation do have big fade potential. So it's all the gapping percentage, um, and in the lack of consolidation are both bearish, right? So it's like, okay, well, I still want some type of backside move. Um, and I really like these aggressive little pushes off of support. Usually you get some higher lows. Higher lows is a good thing if going short. Um, you get these really high relative volume, compared to the candles that came before it. Uh, VWAP reclaims. So, a lot of people see VWAP get broken to the upside, a lot of volume. And I like these little second pushes, right? A second push is always nice because you often get clean bookmap signals. And the one that I like the most is when, you get an aggressive little move, they stack the ask, they break the ask, and they pull it back. And that's what happened here with no bid follow up. And I went short, and I was like, well, there's some downsides to this, right? Some downsides is my average is in the 470s and high days at $6. So it's already not great. Then I'm 20% away from highs. So I was already looking, VWAP was right here. I was already looking to take some profit on the VWAP crack just because of how far away I was from high day. And then I was like, well, I'll put my risk near 7, right? There's some ask at 6.9 and 7. I'm like, well, I'll just keep it tight because, there's painted, first of all, the bullish factors are big pre-market volume, painted lower highs. This is another painted lower high. So we got painted lower highs, bullish, big bullish volume. Um, and then at market open, it had nice bullish volume. So there's a lot of reasons to be kind of, especially when your average is not very good, to see what the bullish thesis is and to keep your risk tight. Because, even if yeah, sometimes your risk is going to get hit and it's just going to knife. But a lot of times, it's going to continue past your risk and you might get a better short. In this case, we got a better long. So, first of all, the volume was just increasing. Then I was like, all right, well, we have that lower high paint. So we got increasing market open volume and the lower high paint. So I was like, wow. I was like, okay, I don't want to step in front of this because, this just went from 700K to 1.2 million to 1.8 million. Like, it was like the volume was going insane, right? And then it made me think that, kind of um, regardless of what the gapping percentage is, what I really care about is what the structure is and what the volume is. Because, in low floats, a lot of times that's what determines how high moves go. Because, low floats, there's always potential for a stock up to 200% to go up 300%, to go up 400%, to go up 1,000%. And when a float, tickers out there where floats under 1 million shares and stuff like that, it kind of doesn't matter. It kind of really doesn't matter if the volume's there and the structure's there, and the bids are there, and we're to see the bids on this thing. This thing has, so you'll see the long here. So this was kind of like your classic long, right? Where it tells you everything. I'm actually just gonna go straight to the Thinkorswim. It tells you everything you need to know about how to long low float stocks, right? So it's like you get this big aggressive move, right? Green candle, green candle, green candle, and sometimes it's just going to squeeze straight up. But anytime it doesn't just immediately squeeze straight up, you never want to long like little flag breakouts like this, right? We get like a flat top, some type of retail support level. In this case, retail support level is $5, right? So $5 is being held. You got a nice little flat top, and people buy the breakout from this little flat top, think it's going to go up. That long never works on low floats. that is a bad long, unless there's some extreme chart paint at the exact right moment. That's never a good long. Chasing a higher high is never going to work. Instead, what happens in low floats very often is the long comes on the knife. It fakes people out, it knives, and especially a market open where these moves can be hyper aggressive, right? This type of hyper aggressive long the knife type move pretty much exclusively happens. It can happen in the pre-market if it's trading a ton of momentum, especially if it's early on in the move. But even better is what it happens at market open, right? That first, like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes is really the best time. And then every kind of minute you get further and further away from market open, the more likely you're going to get longer periods of consolidation. And, for example, say if you think this is a short trap, this is HoD Clearout short trap. Well, now we're past 10 a.m., and we already had a major squeeze in the morning, right? So it's like you're getting further away from market open, which kind of doesn't support these super quick kind of manipulation, like long at the bottom, wait for the wait 2 minutes for the rotation. Like there's certain contexts where it makes sense, but overall it does not make sense in most contexts. And then you already missed. I always say when it comes to longs, the first move is the best move, right? I always say the first move is the best move. Which in low floats, I mean, you could say this was the first move, which is true. This was the first move. It's just the volume was so insane here, and it gave such a nice pattern that you could consider this the first move at market open. But now you're getting into like the second move or the third move. You're getting farther and farther away from market open. So you're starting. The big risk of applying these types of patterns over here is that it's just not the right time frame for them, right? It's just, and then the real long. Look how long this takes. Look how long they soak this. By the way, this was the second midday HoD Clearout short trap. HoD Clearout potential short trap, right? Anytime you see a crazy volume stock give like a clean HoD Clearout, it always has potential to be a short trap. Always. And the reasoning is super simple, right? Like it's an obvious retail pattern, and you could see based on the chart paint, every share after this clearout happened was under 6.5, right? So where all the liquidity is, right? So, and I was, I was potentially thinking this could be a short opportunity over here, and I'll show you why I didn't take it. This was one of those things where before I had Bookmap, I would have probably just shorted straight into this candle, like in above like 6.8, and just hope it worked. Yeah, but this time I didn't need to do that because the book kind of told me what was going to happen. Now I should have longed it, but I just find longing midday to be incredibly difficult, right? A lot of my best longs are either in a pre-market or market open. But yeah, anyway, classic little long fake out. Here's the 1 minute 20. 1 minute 20 is awesome, and then they just stacked 3 layers of bids. They knifed this. They knifed $5, so they knifed the retail support level, right? They did the long trap where they shake people out, and this was the biggest volume candle of the day. Again, how many times have we seen the biggest, up until this candle, this was the biggest volume candle of the day. How many times have we seen the biggest volume candle of the day be a short trap, right? Um, I said this, I didn't do, my daughter was sick, so I wasn't able to make a video yesterday, but in my Discord, I called this move out right here, this dump candle, right? So CXCI had this nice, consistent volume pre-market run, big, massive dump candle. And I said on my Discord, I'm like, this could be short bait, right? Like a lot of shorts see a big blow off, high volume candle move from the top, and they think it's weak. And long story short, me, Mikey Underdog, and other people in my room long this candle, and I caught the market open long on this, right? Another good example of first move being the best move. But back to VVPR. But yeah, so we're gonna see the book map on this. We're gonna see the 1 minute 20 bids come in, and it's just one of those situations where I went long right away, in the low fives, and I caught the move all the way. I was like selling a little bit into the high day squeeze, but then I actually sold a lot up here. Go back to this. You'll see that I sold a lot up here, and that's just because I learned that the way you sell longs on these manipulated strong moves is when the bids start to thin up. And I went over this in my previous videos. You really got to start selling. Like you really got to start selling because a lot of times, either a bigger, larger pullback is coming, or the short's coming. In this case, I actually held on to my long because they started throwing up a million bids. But as you see, there's a super, super, super clean clear out move that I should just prepared for. I should just full sold my long in here and prepared for the short. But I held on to my move. And then this was really interesting. We'll go over this. That, I saw this high day clear out, and I saw the 6.5 being held, and I was kind of hoping it would at least push back up here, right? And then what they did is they stacked a bunch of ass from 6.4 to 6.5. There's a bunch of ass stacked here, and what it was doing is it was eating through the 6.4 ass, but it wasn't touching the 6.5. And I said in my room, I was like, you could, this had some bullish elements, right? We had some higher low paint. Look at the higher lows, the painted higher lows. That's bearish. The fact that this already squeezed up 350%, that's bearish. Potential high day clear out. I thought it could be a short trap, and it was, but much later. But this, depending on how you want to look at this, you could view this as a bullish candle because it's a short trap for later, or you could view it as a legitimate high day clear out and potentially bearish. So I didn't take a short here because I really wanted to see. I thought maybe they would do another clear out like this at 6.5, throw up a bid and rotate it back towards like actual high day. So actually like fake people out and then rotate it back towards. So I was prepared for that type of move, and it just ended up rolling over. And I said in my room, I was like, well, anytime that happens, you just got to remember that, you just got to remember that the way riggers, these riggers, it's really amazing how long-term they think in terms of like a day trade. Like this is a paint job at 10:30 that comes back into play two and a half hours later, right? So, right off the 1 minute 200 and rotation, right? So I didn't put the short here, and then I didn't take the short here, and then we'll go over this. I was going to take this, but it was so fast that I had literally zero time to react. So go over bookmap stuff. Here's the market open push. This is that long at the top book. You almost never, I did this on plays like Nexi, NEXI, I remember VVOS did it. I remember, um, I think LYT did it. There was a few plays that did this in the pre-market, and what happens is, especially when the market starts producing bigger moves, you'll start seeing pre-market strength where it's stuff like this, man. They just throw up like it's like 5, 6, 7 layers of bids. Look at them. Look how empty the order book is to the upside. Look how many Look how many bids they're throwing under this thing. And I do like to wait. This is kind of nice. I do like to wait a good 30 seconds to make sure the bids are actually holding and that no new asks are really showing up. But look at this. You could have longed if you're fast enough. You could have longed into 330s, and this went straight up to 550, right? With like, look at the bid follow. This is how you really make big percentages in low floats is when you have the bid follow up, right? You're gonna get some pullbacks, but as long as the pullbacks have bids, a lot of times the pullbacks have bids they're selling into with more bids stacked under it, right? And as long as, especially if it's following an MA like the 1 minute 9, 1 minute 20, and the bids are there, there's no real reason, especially when it's multiple layers of bids, right? There's no real reason to sell the long. So, you know, uh, I didn't take this push here. There was no bid follow up, but I don't know. There wasn't anything up here that really made me think it was super bearish. And I was kind of concerned about the volume. But this is the short I took. So this is the one where it's like, so we get a big down only move, right? Creates a lot of empty space, right? Big down only move, empty space. I want some type of rotation. This rotation is kind of too small. It's just like a weak little bounce. Um, Feels way too much like a chase, especially when there's all this empty space. But now I get a much more aggressive, higher volume move, right? And here's the aggressive move. Here's the ask. Here's a second push. So first push, consolidation. Second push to 4.7s. I short it. I get confirmation. I get ask following this down. New ask, new ask, new ask. So it's like, okay, cool. Let me wait for VWAP to swipe. So this is where I took some profits on the VWAP swipe, and look what they did, man. They swipe VWAP. They threw up. I was not, I thought some, given the market open volume, I thought some crazy stuff could happen, but oh my god, I did not expect them to, go from 4.2 to 4.9 in about 10 seconds. And then once these asks started getting in through, I just got out. I thought the volume was too crazy. The ask that I was risking was getting taken out, and I just got out of the play. Might have got out over here on the 5 break, but yeah, here's the long. This is what I mean. So here's the 5 bid. So here's the retail support bid, right? $5. $5 is holding. Here's a bunch of asks stacked up here, which could have been. I was actually bullish this because of the volume being almost 2 million shares a minute and the lower high pain, right? So I didn't want to hit this short, but I could totally see why you might want to hit it, right? This is kind of like a classic long trap where they stack a bunch of asks, they push it, and then they knife it, right? So here's the knife. Then I saw this bounce, and so imagine this is real time, right? I see this. I see them swipe 5, which is potentially bullish. That's another lower high, right? So lower high paint, swiping a retail support level. That's bullish. This is bullish, right? And then I see the first couple bids, and then I start seeing the bid stacks, and I just went long here. I just went long, um, and they had a follow up bid near the 5s. And they had these triple bid stacks. And on my screen, you can have your bookmap extend. So like, it actually looks kind of like, even though it's happening right here, I can see the bids like this. Like it extends further, so you have a cleaner picture of how it looks. I just decided to go in right away. It wasn't huge size because, the lowest bid is in the 480s and I'm longing at like 510. But, but I like the pattern, and then look at the bid follow up, bid follow up, bid follow up. It starts to squeeze, bid follow up, bid follow up, bid follow. This is how you sell a little bit, into the push, because you never know if the bids are going to show up or not. But in this case, the volume was consistent. It held up in the top of its range, and they just threw a million bids on it, and then they just squeezed it. And then here is where I started selling, because you could kind of tell they start pulling a lot of these bids, right? And the book starts to get real thin on the bids, right? Which is why you start seeing volatility like this. You start seeing 7.2 to 6 point to 3, back to 7, back to 6.4, back to 7. You start getting that because the order book up here is not supported like it is over here, right? So I just learned when the bids start getting thin. At this point, I longed a stock that was up 250%, and it went up another 40%. You should probably take some profits, right? Especially when the bids start thinning up. And then, yeah, here's the $7 clear out. Here's all those bids they threw up. They threw up like 8 layers of bids. They did the clear out, and they did the interesting thing, which we've seen before, which is they filled these bids, and that becomes relevant for later, right? Huge bids getting filled on a pattern that becomes a short trap for much later. So yeah, here's that 6.5. So here's that aggressive move. Here's no bids following it up with a bunch of asks. Not only 6.5 asks, but all these 6.4 asks getting filled. Just, but I didn't want to hit it, even though the book, especially after it was up here for like 25 minutes, right? With the higher lows, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. I just didn't want to get short under 650, right? And then I felt really dumb because it faded all the way to the 1 minute 200 all the way down here, and I was like, man, I missed like a 6.3 to 5.0 move, right? It's a 20% move. And then yeah, here's that squeeze. So the squeeze. So here's the first push, and it did something that's potentially super bearish, which it filled all these asks on this push. Look at this massive squeeze, filled a million asks with not a lot of bid follow up. But I remember the high day cloud short trap, and I was like, well, let me just wait for a second push, because a lot of times that's a better entry signal, right? Because there is the bullish factor of this super clean high day clear out that retail took over here, right? They could get squeezed, right? So I was like, all right, here are these big asks following the stock down. Big ask, big ask, big ask, big ask. And I'm like, let me wait for this ask. I was looking at 6.8. I was like, let me wait for 6.8 to get pushed. And I told my Discord this, and then I'll make a decision, right? And then what they did was, on this push to 6.8, they threw up some bids, and I was looking at those bids, and I was gonna even chase. If 6.7 bids got taken, I was gonna chase a little bit. I was like, that's a good pattern. It's a good potential little retail long trap pattern. But this bid never got broken, and this just started rotating straight up, and then the rest of this just went straight up. And I'm not a big fan of just blindly shorting into like a midday high day clear out on a super strong high volume stock. I don't know. But yeah, here was the move. This was the fake 5-minute flag move, which was at this point the stock's pretty extended, and here's the 1 minute 50, 5 minute 9, bounce off at once. We get this 7.2, 7.25 paint, right? Lower high, got a clean lower high paint. They do the swipe into the aggressive initiation. Especially on a stock that's already this extended, this is a huge potential long trap signal, right? But look how fast this was. I want to show you how fast this is. Like literally impossible to react to. So I saw this. I saw the bids come in. I saw this rotation. Then I was like, all right, it's going to break 7.2, 7.25. And I'm going to look at the bids, and I'm going to I'll look at it for even 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then go in. But dude, this here to here, like here to here, like this green line, by the way, this is the bid. On your level 2, this is the bid. This is the ask. Like, Like, look at this. It broke. And then this here to here is like 1.5 seconds. It was just, and then like the bid went, the bid wasn't even, if you zoom in, even though this went all the way to 7.5, the bid never went above 7.29, and it instantly dumped into the low sevens. And I was like, oh, it's like, um, and then I was afraid it would soak and rotate, and I just didn't hit any of this. This was probably the best move where it did this support swipe into like this aggressive push. Um, Especially when it didn't push on the second little push over. I should have went in here. I should have went in like the very low sevens. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe it'll break this and like push up towards 7.2, 7.3, and it never did. And it just rolled over and it started doing crazy stuff. So, never got in. Anyway, glad I caught the long. But yeah, they threw up. They did on this second push here. They just threw up a bid and it went straight up and there was no entry, right? Um, and then this was just too quick. I would have loved to get like I wish this like hung out up here for like 3, 4, 5 seconds and I could have got in like the 7.3s or something. That would have been great, but it was just so fast, man, so fast. Yeah, super. Isn't it funny how the super clean, super painted HoD Clearout becomes a short trap for later? That was insane. And yeah, look at that. This 6.5 paint becomes relevant for later, right? A lot of times these guys will hold these. They'll throw up huge ass. They'll hold a stock down just to rig it. 2, 3, 4 hours later. You never know. You never know what they're gonna do. And sometimes it goes straight down. You never know. But overall, the more crazy the volume is, the more likely stuff like this is to happen. And yeah, IBIO from last week was also a play. Not this day. This day. Also play. HoD Clearout. Huge pullback. Everyone's stuck with bad averages below 2.9. Massive rotation, right? So anyway, that's the video for today. You guys have a good one.